I write you 3 types of poems. The first poem is written in the shower. It will never make it to the page. It is written in an alchemic concoction of steam and sweat and tears. My under eyelids levies under warm streams, my brown skin reddened, nose swelling like submerged wood. This poem comes the most natural, straight from the source. It is honest and forthcoming about my deepest fears and desires. No backspaces or lines through. This poem is raw, naked, bare, and bathed in truth. This poem is baptismal. My heart emerges pure. This poem, if written, if read, if heard, would lead to destruction. Facades would topple over unto themselves. The second type of poem was just read to you. It spills out onto the page, engulfing like coffee, making a mess of me in the process. I sit on a towel in front of the heater in my underwear and scramble to scribble down as much as I can remember from the shower. I probably wrote 3 or 4 poems in there. This poem attempts to corral the shower thoughts, guide the words into manageable form. Pen becomes shepherd. This poem has strike-throughs and arrows all over. This poem is messy, barely decipherable. The third poem comes dressed up, ready for presentation. It's been distilled, it looks good. This poem has been rearranged like Legos for optimal and appropriate impact. This poem is the baby, hours old now, after it's been washed and wrapped. It stinks less of fear, desires layered in subtext. This poem is presentable. You like this poem, seduced by this poem even. This poem is printable and publishable. This poem is only residual though. One front door that will now only be known for the day he walked out and never walked back in. 2 sisters, your mother and your aunt, waiting upstairs to break the news to you. 3rd month, 26 days into the year 2004. Forget everything you thought you knew about life. 5-year-old cousin left fatherless. You try to comfort her by telling her you don't have a father either. 6th grade. When the world gets dark and clear, you're in the 6th grade. 7 hours at school, playing class president, only to return home and be reminded you were powerless. Ate all the food that friends from far and wide brought because grief leaves holes that cannot be filled. 9 years later, you wrote a poem that is now also lost about the day you came home to 10 or so bodies in a lifeless room, smiles heavy and dragged down with grief. You were 11. And then one day it was gone. The casket left unburied, removed from the garage. This daily reminder, less picturesque than framed images, assaulted her memory with every blink. Stale air left hovering over oil spots more fragrant than flowers invasively penetrate nostrils. Daily this eulogy echoes among silence. Imagine me driving around the same south central sky you were shot under, sitting behind the wheel in the seat where you bled. She couldn't anymore. So then one day it was gone. The casket left unburied, removed from the garage. Granny couldn't remove the street though. Couldn't gather up the gravel pebble by pebble, shovel it behind the memories, pack it down real smooth like paper. The house couldn't grow chicken legs like Baba Yagas and cluck away, so coming and going became a daily memorial service. People here speak with tongues tied tightly between teeth. Not every person at the table gets question or opinion. What do you do when you see a cycle repeating, a cycle repeating? Repetition makes for permanence. We're all attempting to climb the same mountain of grief alone, each of us on a different side, standing at the base, sizing up the past. Clearly no one here has ever gotten over anything. Is someone around here going to talk about the fact that we do not talk about the facts? We are your children, not your infants. The days for pacifying have passed. The only time children want to raise adults is from the dead. Parents only want to lay children to rest for bed. This family rarely gets what they want or says what they need. Speak up. The voices in my head like to monopolize conversations. The silence is getting too tall for words to climb over. I won't have any energy left for climbing or conversing once I'm done with myself. Last one? Sure. Yeah? Okay. A poet by the name of Brenda Hillman came to USC to give a reading. You get up enough courage to introduce yourself to her, and she signs her book to you. It reads, "To Iran, with the great name, the vows will sing for you." At that time, you have no idea what the fuck she's talking about. Your name is Iran Brianna Hurd. Your father wanted to name you Brianna, but that was before he was killed sitting in his new white Camaro outside your grandmother's house off of Vernon in Vermont in South Central Los Angeles. Both these dreams deferred. His name was Aaron Kelly Hurd, and he was 19. Your mother wanted to name you for him, after him, but she wanted to keep the spelling. Aaron with an E was not quite the same. She wanted to keep the spelling Aaron. She wanted it to sound feminine and pretty. The story goes your grandmother, the one not yet mourning her son, but her time was coming, had a dream, and God or a spirit or a voice, or maybe your father himself gave her the name, Iran. Maybe the intention was always for you to be a hybrid of masculinity and femininity. Maybe the intention was for you to bridge the gap between the vertical and the horizontal, the living and the dead. Truly to be authentic versions of both your mother and your father. Your mother gifted upon you a beautiful name, yet still, when read on paper, you were called Aaron. Maybe even those who don't know you. Know this. Know that even with the feminine name, you are still a little too bold, a little too forward, a little too bossy, a little too everything, rarely enough feminine, rarely enough pretty for the sake of such a thing. This all seems new, but remember once you went with your godfather to the toy store and the pink owls had nothing of interest to you? You brought home a model of a Navy vessel with a fighter jet runway. Barbie played captain, and although strong in mind and body, theoretically, she always struggled to steer the ship exactly straight. This all seems new, but remember when you were young? Really, really young? Before you got the Navy ship? Before you idolized Nelly and sported a do-rag and Band-Aid under your eye for fashion, to the embarrassment of your aunt and the encouragement of self-expression from your mother? Remember when you got caught in the bed touching another girl's private parts? During interrogation, you were asked why you did what you did. You said she made you do it. They said, did she hit you and say do it? You said no. They said, did she hold a gun to your head and say do it? You said no. They said, then she didn't make you do anything, Iran. No one can make you do anything, Iran. And they were right. And you were in tears. Stubborn, persistent, determined are some ways in which those closest to you would describe your character. No one can make you do anything, Iran. But what were you to say? You wanted to. You liked it. You were curious and acted upon your curiosities. You had a question and went looking for the answer and liked what you found. The only thing you were sorry for was the shame in being caught. 2017. They ask if you gave yourself your name. You give them the short version of the above mentioned. They are intrigued by you. They compliment your style, your smile, your name. They say you look like a queer 007, sexy but stealth. They said you look ready for whatever, whenever, and you are. Except you're not ready for someone to say you're queer out loud on the front steps of the San Francisco Opera House. But that's the thing about words. No matter how long they knock against your teeth, they can't get back in. Once you choose not to swallow them with your spit, once your tongue can no longer be burdened with pressing them to the top of your mouth, once you've held them in so long you're sure others can smell them on your breath and know you're a liar who's been cheating on their diet, once they come out, they're out. Iran, I'm sorry no one ever told you that your love is too expansive and far too encompassing to be confined by gender. I know you hate the saying about not having your cake and eating it too. You can't understand why someone will put time and energy into cooking something they will never taste. It's okay to be all or nothing. Iran, in Hebrew, your name means high mountain, enlightened, exalted, and bearer of martyrs. In ancient Egyptian, your name means warrior lion. Iran, stand on top of your mountain. Stroke the ferocious lion that guards your heart until it purrs only for you. Be warrior, weaponize love. Honor the martyrs who sacrificed love and self long before you. Love yourself fully, and finally allow yourself to be loved by others. This all seems new, but remember when a poet by the name of Brenda Hillman came to USC to give a reading, you got up enough courage to introduce yourself to her, and she signed her book to you. It reads, "To Iran, with the great name the vows will sing for you." Remember that this confused you at the time, but you are growing into understanding. Remember that all you want to do is be the best version of Iran possible, and that starts with being a more honest poet than you've ever been. Maybe then you'll find your song, and maybe then you'll earn your name. Thank you.